welcome everybody. My name is Schernthaner. I am head of sales here at Precast in Salzburg, Austria. And yeah, today I would like to talk to you about integrated design in the precast industry. So this is a CAD related topic, and we want to show you actually where with all these buzzwords of BIM and Industry 4.0, that is also the topic here of the panel today, where we are actually these days in the construction industry, and specifically in our case in the precast industry. So, first of all, who are we? We are part of the Nemechek Group, and the Nemechek Group is yeah, a traditional digitalizer, I would say. So for many years, already since its foundation in the 60s, the Nemechek Group was very strong, strongly pushing for digitalization, especially in the construction industry. And this is basically what still is in the center of the philosophy these days. The focus is entirely here on the AEC industry. As you can see, what does this mean? This is the architecture, engineering, and construction industry. So this is what we are talking about here and what we are focusing on. So the Nemechek Group has a couple of standards that I just quickly want to touch upon. So first of all, everything we do is open. And this is again where we're already back at the BIM level. So everything we do, all our solutions, and you can see below all the sister companies, we're talking about 16 companies here. All the solutions that are provided should be integratable and basically work seamlessly together, and also with other solutions. So the idea is here really to create a platform where everybody can work together openly. And this is also the idea that is going to follow us through the presentation today. Innovation, as you can imagine, as for all of us in this industry, plays a big role. The idea is here that we have innovative hotbeds in these small companies, while at the same time, and this is the last pillar here, solid, at the same time we have this overarching umbrella of the Nemechek Group that provides the financial backing and also, let's say, the market power to actually really create noise in the market. So this connection is the idea, and also, let's say, the success recipe so far for the Nemechek Group. The focus, all these companies that you see there have one specific field of focus within the AEC industry. And in our case, and we're going to see that in a second, that is the precast industry. Okay. Good. So what about Precast Austria? We also have 30 plus years in this industry, have always been kind of entirely focused on precast. This means that is one of our big advantages, that we really can be seen as the expert in this industry. And this is also in our history, even after the acquisition through Nemechek. Basically, we have been seen and considered, and also considered ourselves as kind of the precast task force. And since then, we have developed our products further and created a lot of yeah, interesting benefits that are very specific to this industry. And I think this is also something that makes us unique. There are, of course, and that's good, always, let's say, market yeah, friends in the market who do similar things, aka competitors. But what we do is like really we entirely focus on the precast industry, and that is why our solutions are also entirely tailored to players and companies in this industry. We have more than 50 specialists who are concentrated in our headquarters in Austria, but are also spread all over the world. We have offices in Singapore and Shanghai, and ultimately it is very important for us to be there, to be out there at the client. And in this connection, it's also important that we have professional partners like Softprom, and at this point also a very warm thank you in your direction for providing this beautiful and cool platform for us to share today. 500 customers worldwide, 3,000 workstations are at the moment working on precast software, and that adds up to more than 150 million square meters of concrete per year. We also try to set industry standards instead of just following them, and I think in our industry this is very important, that you are actually really on board when decisions are taken, and when new standards, like in this case we have your IFC for precast, like new file standards are established, that you are there and that you're part of these developments. And this is definitely something that that we enforce, and that is very important to us. Let's take a quick look at the bigger picture. So where are we currently and what are the trends that we all know? I don't want to go too deep into it, but we all know that we are a lot of people, and we're probably gonna become even more. Some figures: 200 years ago, 2% lived in cities. Now these days it's quite a bit over 50% already. Mega cities are a big trend. We're spending a lot of time in these buildings. I think in times of COVID, it's probably even a little bit more than it used to. And these buildings consume energy. Actually, 40% of the world's energy is kind of consumed in connection to and within buildings, which brings in another important factor, namely all the sustainability and the energy saving green perspective of things. And urban growth is a big thing that it's also strongly focused on developing countries. What does it mean? The buildings need to be built fast. They need to be built cost efficient. Second, as we said, the quality needs to last. We need to be green at the same time. And ultimately, this whole thing has to be comfortable and also really something that people actually cherish. And here, of course, precast has some work to do to kind of work on its image also, that's coming still from, let's say, the old days, where it was not a synonym for comfortable living. But here, and that's exactly the point and what we are talking about, the way this technology develops and the way also the software develops enables a completely new way of precast to actually really enhance and enrich our lives in all these cities. An interesting comparison now. What are we talking about and why is this a big theme? Comparing a couple of industries, what do these industries have in common? Very clearly, they are all essential to our needs. They are all essential industries that we are all basically related to. What is interesting is the difference in growth. And here we are looking at, that's I think a McKinsey study from a couple of years ago, the growth after the Second World War to today. How much has the industry industrialized and kind of automized? And here, without diving too much into the details, you can see that construction is lagging quite a bit behind. In retail, we had logistics that we can still see today. Of course, this is an ongoing process that is strongly automizing. In manufacturing, we have perfectly organized production plants and also centralized companies who are steering the whole process. And in agriculture, we also see this big industrialization. Of course, not everything that is automized is automatically good. I want to say that at that point as well. There's always pro and contra to these things, but ultimately the message is clear. Even in construction, we have the task to really look into how we can work more effectively in the future. To elaborate on that, where is this actually coming from? And here it's quite interesting to look at the just mentioned automobile industry. And again, also today in quite some trouble. So the level of industrialization doesn't always protect you from bigger developments that are going on in the global economy. That's clear. But what they have is a central management of data and a central hub, a central control hub that kind of manages and controls and steers the whole process. And this is exactly what we are missing in the construction industry. Here we have fragmented players. We have different steps in this process that are cut off from each other. And that means, as you can imagine, a lot of loss of information and a loss of energy, a loss of time in each of these steps. And that is basically, in a nutshell, what we are targeting and what we are here. Basically, this is our mission to help alleviate and ameliorate this situation. Now, let's also pay tribute to the fact that the construction industry hasn't been sleeping now all these years. So in the last couple of years, there is some movement that we can see. So we see standardized workflows, we see BIM, building information modeling, as a central element of this trend. We see lean, we see Industry 4.0, digital factory. So there are some players in the market who are taking on the challenge of really bringing the construction industry forward in this connection. And we see ourselves here as their strong partner in the software. So what are we ultimately looking at? We're looking at a complexity of projects. We are looking at, of course, more and more demand in the timing. That means everything has to happen faster in the course of this automation. Ultimately, in a nutshell, we are seeing that a lot of essential information is traveling through this process. Many parties need access to this information. The question is how we can channel this information in the best possible way without losing data and without losing energy and efficiency on the way. Okay. So let me show you quickly where in the process we are coming in and our solutions are coming in. So you see here the whole cycle of, let's say, building process. We come in when precast parts are calculated. That means when quotes are prepared for precast parts. Then, of course, as the main event, there is the precast design, there is work preparation. Then at some point, this whole information, this design, these models come into production, they need to be produced. And afterwards, there is data and reports on it and information management also on mobile devices. So that means the challenge here for our clients and for players in the construction industry is that on the one hand, they have to create a seamless process internally throughout all these steps. And at the same time, they have to be open to the bigger picture, to this BIM globe that you see here, to this world, and make sure that all the other players involved in the process are able to communicate with them and are able to access the correct data at the right time. So let's look at one very important step here, one important level of this cycle, and that is production. So at some point, all this data, the model leaves, let's say, the desk of the designer, and then at some point, after the work is prepared, it needs to be produced. And here it is important that we are cooperating. This brings back this level of openness. So we try to have cooperation ongoing with all the major players in the market. If you're familiar with the industry, then these names ring a bell. So all major machinery manufacturers are our partners. We have experience with all of them. It just shows that this whole world is growing together more and more. And one more comment on this level, of course, the ERP and ERP systems would be another dimension here that we could look at here. I just want to mention that also here we have cooperation with all the major players in the market, references in all these areas. Quick look at our products. What do they do? What do they mean? This is PLANBAR and TIM. These are our two major products out in the market. 2D and 3D. As I said, it's about automation, industrialization of the design process. It's about BIM, that means building information modeling, bringing all this information together centrally. Automized drawings, that means at a push of a button, a lot of calculation, a lot of drawing is happening, and basically is simplifying the process in many ways. Reinforcement in precast, now we're becoming a little bit more technical, of course, important. And everything is model-based. What that means, we're going to look at still in a second. So efficient modeling of precast parts, this is basically where we're coming from. This is our core business. This goes up to 4 times faster than with comparable solutions in this industry. Reinforcement, as we said already, and basically what is important to notice is that at the same time you have a plan, you have a so-called element plan and a 3D model. And the important thing is that at all times these are synchronized so that you really make sure that people are accessing the single source of truth, as we like to call it, this one model that is correct and that is actual. And yeah, if you analyze processes in the construction industry these days, then you just see that a lot of the efficiency is lost in exactly this fact that there is more than one truth. Here you see what actually happens in the process. So a model comes in from the architect in either 2D or 3D. And then what our software does is basically it takes all this data and breaks down this big pile of information into manufacturable elements with all the necessary details and data that you need to process it further. And then basically prepares this data for production and ultimately for the construction and the establishment on site. So basically this process from the architectural model all the way to the site and the final kind of position within the actual building is what we are guiding here and what we are supporting here with our solutions. Here I have a short video where we see, I hope that is running. Yes, there might be a performance related issue, but now we're back. Is there any feedback from you guys how that looks? It's kind of a little bit not happening. Let's see whether we can just, okay. So here you see a 2D plan. This is a building that was entirely designed with Allplan, one of our sister companies and the base of our design solution. And PLANBAR, this is a Singaporean project. And here you can see that first you look at the model and decide, okay, which parts are producible, manufacturable in precast as precast elements. And then you add the reinforcement that is needed. Here we have the filigree slabs that are then put in place. Additional reinforcement, structural. And then you decide upon what fixtures are needed. And again, you see this parallelism here between the plan and the model at all times. There might be some transport fixtures in connection to the production machinery that you have in place, which we're also going to come back in a second again. And ultimately, you want to bring this information further into our TIM, where we then see, okay, how can this now be manufactured and actually really, put to life, so to say, in the most efficient way. So this works for structural precast parts that you are able to freely model. For example, with Python parts, which is a more and more up and coming thing where it becomes easier and more accessible for people, and let's say that it shortens the amount of training that you actually need in order to be able to actually draw. So this is what we're supporting. And then also wall and slab systems and actual and precast elements. And let's actually take one moment and look into such an element and what we see here, if the performance allows, is that what looks like a simple wall In this case, a sandwich wall is actually quite a bit more. There is quite a bit of information related to insulation, to fire insulation protection, reinforcement, and different fixtures and appliances for transportation. So a precast part is, in a nutshell, more than it seems, and the complexity behind is something that has to be managed accordingly. We're talking about the synthesis of 2D and 3D here. We have brought that up shortly. Here you see an element plan and a model. As my colleague always says, the good thing or the important thing to point out here is that we have a view on the model, and we are not, the plan basically is a view on the model in this case, and it's not derived from the model. This is exactly this truth of data that we are talking about, where we make sure that there is only one truth, there's only one actual new set of data, and that is this view on the model that we are talking about here. That also differentiates us from similar solutions. Quickly gonna jump over here. We were talking about this here, reinforcement optimized for production. Here what we are saying is that it's important that your plan and your planning system also knows your production environment and has an idea of what your machine actually needs in this process. In this case, we see that there are transport irons placed within openings. This is not a mistake as it might look on the first glimpse, but this is actually information for the machine, so the system knows that the machine needs these irons to move the parts through the production. Now a quick note still on TIM. We've already elaborated on what it is. So basically I see TIM as our digitalization weapon, whereas PLANBAR is our design tool and our CAD solution. TIM puts then everything into the big world of digitalization, and as you can see here, provides this central hub for production, for mobile devices, for the design, and for work preparation, all the processes that are part of this world in construction here.
Thank you, Christian.
Yep. So I guess that's a sign that I'm pretty much out of time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Can I get just 1 minute to finish off?
Yes.
I will jump through quickly.
We have, yes.
Mobile solution, we do have some details on that, of course, available always on our website. Just some major clients that are known in this industry and that would also be able to give you some more details on how it actually really works in the real world with us. Obendorfer, Robin Village, Gamuda, for example. Please check our website for more references. And last but not least, this is basically what we want to do. We want to be your bridge between this fragmented approach that we have these days and this digital world. And yeah, if you have further questions, then please reach out to me, and we're always happy to get in touch and work something out together. Thank you.
Thank you, Christian. Thank you, colleagues. It's finished today. We meet in the next day. Today we finished, and if you want to ask something, please, you can chat. We have chat. Plus, Christian, you here it's in 3D on the booth or no?
Yes, I'm in the hall. That's what I'm.
Okay.
Yep.
Yes. Christian, here you can try call to Christian, asks, and you can go to the meeting. We have meeting rooms for it. It's okay.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.